All right, welcome to another episode of Beers and Gears. This one is going to be in two parts. My road name is Nine Finger. Some of the boys call me Sarge. I got Tav here today to help me pull some wrenches. And behind the camera I got Vinny. And today's project is one I didn't want to do, but it's got to be done. So this is my 2010 Street Glide. What I got going on is when the bike is hot and it's in neutral, if you go to move it around the garage, you can hear it making noise, making a rattling noise. That means the inner primary bearing is gone. I decided to push it a little bit and go for a ride with some of the boys, figuring the bearing would last for a while. And oil started bailing out the back of the primary. So when the bearing packed it in, it obviously tore up the seal. So we got to take it all apart. You know, it's not an engine rebuild or a transmission rebuild. But after that, it's probably the biggest job that you'll ever have to do on your Harley. So just to tell you what got to go on, we got to get the rear pegs and front floorboards off. We got to disconnect the shifter. We got to get the seat off and the battery disconnected. Tad's going to look after that. We've got to get the starting motor unbolted. Then we got to take off this whole primary cover. We got to take off our front compensator, take out our clutch basket, and then take this whole piece off and put it on the bench. So we're just going to get at it, and hopefully by the end of this episode we'll at least have it all apart so I can assess the damage and see what parts we need. So let's get at it. All right, so myself and Tav got this far. We've got the starter bolts let go. Of course, we got the battery cable disconnected. Don't do anything with your starter unless you got your battery cable disconnected. We got our front floorboard off. We got our rear peg off. We got our shift linkage off. The problem with this is the bearing that's gone sits in this case, so we got to get this case off. So this is our front compensator. A lot of times Harleys have problems with their compensators. If it's making a noise, a big heavy rattle on startup, and after you shut it off, it's your compensator. Mine is good, knock on wood, for now anyway. And this is your clutch basket. This is where you adjust your clutch. So we're gonna end up taking all this out, and we'll have to take this bolt out, and we'll have to take the bolt that holds the clutch in out. This bolt is a reverse thread, so we gotta turn it right to get it to loosen. So if you're going at this, make sure you remember that. This is our drive chain tensioner, all right, a primary chain tensioner. And all we're gonna do now is we're gonna get a screwdriver and we're gonna get in here between the chain and the tensioner, and we're gonna feed a zip tie in around and zip tie it up, and then we're gonna take the two bolts out so we can take our tensioner and just lay it aside, and that way later it'll be easier to install. If you're doing this at home and it comes apart on you, don't panic. You can get them together, but this just saves a bit of arson around. So we'll go ahead and get this much done, and then we'll check in again. So this is your clutch push rod. You just saw me take out the snap ring and the adjustments for the clutch push rod, sorry, tongue twister. So this end of your push rod goes in to your clutch, and this end out here, you adjust so it's just touching your clutch pack. And then when you pull on your cable, it pushes this in and out, and that's what gives you your clutch action inside your clutch pack. So it's got to come out, so just take it out. Leave a little bit of oil on it so it doesn't get rusty on you, and we'll keep rocking and rolling. All right, so we got our compensator nut out. We took out our clutch rod and adjuster, and we just took out our clutch basket nut. We had to use a chisel to jam up the teeth here so we could get everything moving. And now, with the help of my assistant over there, Tav, we're just going to grab this and take it out as a unit. You ready, Tav? All right, you want to carry it over there and put it on the cardboard. So here's the bearing that I'm having the problems with. As you can see, it's a big roller bearing. And it sits on a race, and it's got a snap ring on the other side that keeps it in. So we'll have to take out the snap ring, push the bearing out of the case. Then the trick is going to be getting the inner race off the input shaft of the transmission. We'll deal with that after. So next step basically for us now is to remove these bolts and get the inner primary off. And then we're in business. All right, so we took our bolts out of the inner primary. We got the inner primary off. There's a gasket, there's a metal gasket that goes right here. You know, technically you should replace it. It's probably not that bad. I may or may not, we'll see. Here's the back of the inner primary. There's the bearing we're talking about. There's a snap ring that holds it in there. And there's a seal. And you can see from the mesh right here on the bottom of that seal. And then if you look up here at the mesh that we got in here, once that bearing failed, that seal failed, and that's where my bike started leaking oil. So it was noisy and it was leaky. But you know, not too bad. What do we got? 40 minutes or so maybe? 40 minutes or so, and we got it scrapped down. Now, I don't have a press here in my home garage, so I'm going to take this into work. After hours, I work at a dealership, and we're going to push that bearing out, and I'll push the new bearing in, and then we'll bring it back here, and we'll reverse this whole process, and we'll go for a ride. So far, so good. A couple of other things you might want to make note of. When we took the bolts out of the primary case, you can tell right here, they're all different lengths. Sometimes some people will mark them down or draw a piece of cardboard the same shape as the primary and put all the bolts in the holes. That works. I pretty much know where they go anyway, but you can also just get a little tiny screwdriver, put in the holes, make sure you got long holes and short holes, and it goes back together so you got that all straightened up. So that's it. Next time you see us, in the next episode, we'll be putting this back together. We'll help you out. We'll give you some torque specs and stuff as we go along. But for now, that's it for part 1 of this episode of Beers and Gears, Harley Inner Primary Problems. All right.